this is recorded.
Literally just sit there so no one touches. ¿Sabes qué vamos a hacer? Esto solo quitar esta silla y ya de ahí no pongo más. De ese lado. Quitaré esa. Sí, eso es lo que te estoy diciendo.
power cords. Don't want to run out of juice.
It is.
Oh, my goodness.
Somewhere. I got it.
Thanks, Dave. Like your parents? That's awesome. They got you right at the right time. You can feel free to acknowledge them in the audience if you like.
You have one?
Yeah, it's like silent gas.
All right, everyone. Oh, that's loud. It worked really fast. Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started in just a second. As you know, the NDT is a collection of history and current moments, and we're constantly making little tweaks and adjustments. One of the tweaks and adjustments that we started last year is not doing assemblies during the day to keep the day moving. It also created the unfortunate effect that two fantastic teams concluded their season closing out with their opponents from their same school and didn't have the opportunity for recognition. So before we get started with the finals, can you please join me first in congratulating the team from Emory University, Henry Mitchell and Bella Pigu. Thank you. And as you know, we had two closeouts, so please also join us in congratulating for a fantastic team season. The team from Kansas, John Marshall and Ji Yoon Park. Thank you, everyone. And so we begin the final round for the 78th National Debate Tournament. On the affirmative, we have from Kansas, RS, William Soper, and Graham Rivera coming in as the 9th first round and the 2nd overall seed. And on the negative, from the University of Michigan, Your number 2 first round and number 4 lead. I want to thank our panel of judges for being available and highly preferred to judge this final round. So from Tyler Thur from Georgetown University, A.U. Giampetruzzi from Emory University, Johnny Stupek from the University of Georgia, David Kilpatrick from Emory, and Eric Morris from Missouri State University, your final round judges. Also, in the category of new NDT rules, we now do the thank yous prior to the time start of the debate. So each of the debaters will have up to 5 minutes to give their thanks. We'll go in constructive order, and at the conclusion of that, I will announce the official start time, from which judges will have 3 hours and 30 minutes to reach a conclusion. So the only other announcement, I get to be a killjoy one more time, by NDT rule, alcohol is not allowed in this room. There's the rest of the hotel, so please don't bring it in. But other than that, I will get away from the microphone and turn it over to King.
Yeah, they're doing all this one.
I similarly did not have time to write a thank you speech in advance, so I'm setting a 5-minute timer now. To the NDT director, Dr. Gordon Stables, thank you for organizing this. Emory for hosting, especially the coaches who gave their weekend organizing this tournament as well. To the tournament tabulation director, Gary Larson, and the head of the NDT committee, Adrian Rivero, thank you so much. To the National Debate Tournament Board of Directors, Carla Lepper, Kate Wolfensky, Jonathan Rains, Leah Milchinsky, Brett Bricker, Mark Gidley, Nicole Serrano, Grace Kessler, and David Hung. Thank you to the generous support we continually receive from the University of Michigan and our UM Debate alums, and the donors who make it possible for us to be here representing the University of Michigan in the final round tonight. To the University of Michigan administrators, President Santa Ono, Vice President of Student Life, Martina Harmon, and Dean of Students, Dr. Laura Blake-Jones, and the Associate Dean of Students, Sarah Daniels. Thank you. To Kelly specifically, I know it was a bit weird having me out of debate for 2 years and then taking me back to have a pretty weird senior year, getting back into the swing of things, but it's been a really fun time, and I can't thank you enough. It's been wonderful. To the UM debate coaches, Akol, Kurt, Kevin, Val, Dustin, Gabe, Kelly, and Roth, I can't thank you enough. You've been immensely helpful, especially Roth, who I lived with for a brief period over the summer. Wonderful time, and Zahir as well. You can get into it. To the other people on the UM debate team who are here, Natalie and Connor. Connor was also involved in living together over the summer, which is a wonderful time. And tournaments would not be the same if we didn't get to share hotel room every time. I couldn't imagine having the senior year with anyone else. To my parents who made their way to the tournament, I can't thank you enough. You've been incredibly supportive, and I hope you finally understand what's been going on for 4 or 5-ish years with a break in the middle regarding debate. I know it's hard to understand, but exposure to some rounds has hopefully helped out a bit, and truly I couldn't wish for better parents. It's wonderful. To Jacob, my mom, and Mac, who got me into debate. Mac's not here, obviously, but obviously would not be here without them. Specifically, Jacob, for kind of the whole philosophy thing. I can't explain it. It's weird. I love you. You're great, and yeah, I wouldn't have stuck in this activity if you weren't there the whole time in high school. To the other LDers in college policy, I know Taj is done, but Kumi, Joey Tarnowski, and any others who I might be forgetting. It's fun to have at least a small community of people who did a bit of a different event in high school and can come back here. Yeah, Jacob was thanked earlier. And then to my former lab leaders, from the people that I started with, from Devon, to the people who taught me before my senior year, including Gio. Yeah. I wouldn't be here without any of them. They taught me a bunch, and honestly, I can't thank any of these people enough. Looking forward to the final round.
Similarly, I would like to thank my parents for being incredibly supportive of me, even though, like, unconditionally supportive. Like, whatever I want to do vis-a-vis debate, they have been totally on board with, even though they probably don't understand any of it, and, you know, they're just amazing. I'd like to thank the University of Kansas, and in particular, as Graham did, the Communications Department and its chair, Dr. Jay Childers, are so many esteemed alum who make so much of this possible through their contributions to the KU debate team, and without whom Graham and I wouldn't be able to be at this tournament in the first place. Emory for hosting the tournament, and the NDT committee for running it. Are on our staff, Dr. Scott Harris and Dr. Brett Bricker have been not only the greatest coaches, in my opinion, in the activity, but have also just been incredible sources of emotional support for me and have held me accountable throughout my time at KU, and who have uplifted me and really made me a better person over the course of my 4 years. I'd also like to thank the other grad students at KU, Ned and Elena, Asia and Jesse, Allie Chase, who's been up here to help us this weekend, Derek, Jesse, Nathan, Julia Henry, Nick Moore, Ben Majoric, and Will Katz. I could have amazing, funny stories and moments that I tell about each of these people. It feels almost like trivializing to just like mention their names all in a row like this, but I love you all so much, and you all have helped me grow so incredibly. My high school coaches in the same vein, Dave Kingston and Art Delgado. Dave Kingston helped me out of the goodness of his heart, basically, didn't collect a salary, incredibly giving person who has really made me develop as a debater. I'd also like to thank Brian Box, who despite not being my high school coach, has really become a mentor to me over the past 4 years, since I've been assistant coaching and working with Blue Valley North, and has just provided me so much feedback and life advice, and who I just love so incredibly. My college partners, Marcus Woodcock, Zaki Mansour, one of my best friends, Ethan Harris, and in particular, Graham. Graham, you have some opinions about who the best debater of all time is. I think by your own logic, you were at least top two. People on the team. Friends of mine on the debate team, in particular John and June, in particular John, who cuts 95% of our AFF cards, is incredibly hardworking, is incredibly supportive, like in pre-rounds and in coaching before this stuff. I'm so sorry that we had to walk over them, and I love them so much. Avery, Sean, and Luna, who have been incredibly helpful throughout the weekend, and who I'm happy got to come with us to district. Judges throughout my career have been incredibly helpful. My lab leaders, in particular, Kurt, Jazzy, and Emily Bosch, have been incredibly influential to me, who kind of helped me out. Every time I went into debate camp, I always felt like I was not very good at debate, and all three of those people really helped uplift me and made me feel like I was good and were kind to me and kind of helped me out and made me feel good about myself at a time when I didn't feel like I was very good at debate. Our competitors throughout the season and the panel specifically and all the judges that we've had, thank you for taking your time. And lastly, our esteemed opponents, Michigan PD. We debated at Harvard. We look up to you. You've clearly been top of your game your whole season. And I'm looking forward to the debate, Jim. Thank you.
That I didn't think some people last year, so I'll get to them, don't worry. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to thank my parents again. I know it's not easy funding debate when I was debating from Taiwan, and yet they put in the financial commitment because they knew how much it meant to me. I don't think they still 100% understand what debate is, but they do know how to use tab room, so they're aware that I'm in the finals, thank God. And so I owe everything to them. None of this would have been possible without their support, so I'm infinitely grateful. I really, really do have the best parents in the world. It's probably I don't know what the time difference there is, but I'm sure they know. I also want to thank family friends, Jennifer and Min Chung, who have also been integral to my success in debate. I also want to thank my friends, Joy, Hannah, and Steph, because they've kind of watched me go through debate throughout my whole process, and I've kind of left for multiple weekends in a row without them knowing why, and so I'm glad that they were supportive through this whole process. I also want to thank Emory University for hosting, the NDT for running such a great tournament, crossed by everything Bennett said. All those people I would also like to thank. I also want to thank Aaron Call, in my opinion, like Raphael said last year. He is the best director of debate in the country. I think when I first decided to do college debate, I didn't realize how much and how helpful a director of debate could be, and really Aaron is one of those people who always puts the team first. I always feel like our needs are taken care of. He always puts us first, and I feel like that's the reason why he built such a successful program over the last couple of years. I also want to thank our coaches. I know you all were integral to this process. In particular, I want to thank Raphael. I think both of us agree we would literally not be here without Raphael. It's actually unbelievable. Almost any position that you see where you're oh, it's another Michigan thing that is unbeatable. It's him. It's him. And every time we're in the pre-round and he's explaining things to us, we always think yes, he is the greatest of all time. And I also want to thank Gabe. Like, thanks for coming back. It really means a lot. I know it was really hard, but really like having you in the pre-round, and like it's really just been so fun, and I'm glad you came back. I also want to thank my previous partners. So like from high school, I think I'm probably forgetting their names because I had a different partner every year, even in high school. I know it's kind of a trend. And then I want to thank Brandon Strauss. He's doing great in law school, so shout out to him. I want to thank Kelly Schoolakaris. Yeah, debating with her was so fun. And Raphael again, cross-apply what I said. And then Bennett, thanks for coming back to debate. Otherwise, again, I would literally not be here because I wouldn't have a partner. I also want to thank the people on my team, Connor, Natalie. I'm sure both of you will kill it next year. By the way, Connor was here with a concussion and still broke, so shout out to him. Probably a historic accomplishment in the Guinness Book, something like someone should record that. I also want to thank my previous lab leaders. I remember in high school I was not like very good, and so it took like a few years at camp for me to kind of like, understand like what debate was, and I'm really thankful to all of them for being so patient with me. I also want to thank everyone who's ever judged me. I know that like sometimes when I think people make wrong decisions, like, but then it's just I still learn a lot. Like literally activity would not be possible without you, and like, I appreciate all of you. And lastly, I'd like to thank my opponents, Graham and Soper. Yeah, we've come a long way since bottom seniors. Go us. So, that's great. And so I'm really excited for the debate. So you can tell that I haven't like written anything. So it's felt like debate was my life for the past 10 years. It's sad that it's ending, but I'm glad it's ending like this.
Let me see who was set a while ago. Is anyone not ready? Right over. That's right. Let's go. Premise 1, U.S.-China confrontation is inevitable. A decline, Beijing's preservation is actions point toward immediate. Am I reading the wrong one, AC? Read the one I said. Never mind. You all have it, so it's apparently this is the one that doesn't start with premises.
Yeah, where was that? Where did that come from?
Okay. Is anyone not ready? Scenario 1 is advantage 1 is China. Scenario 1 is crisis. Really, it's collapsing between the US and China. Linking into this big conflict level was R24. It's China, France, against Taiwan. The US is focusing on over the US. Support of the SES. China has built bases, rational countries, risk of disaster in the Philippines. Makes the risk of a confrontation harder than ever because of conflict, but the AFF Beijing attacks Washington. We can compel to respond for incidents security across the east of saturation is standards. Particularly the Beijing seeks to be predominant Beijing's risk tolerance for speaker across actions. The Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, the last few chips. China ships indicated 300 to the chance for restraint for the same for the state runs of the structural defense in the SES escalation process. Officials use this as a trust experiences for fishing and fishing bound in the escalation. China and the US fit the Thucydides model that guarantees unforeseen conflict and inevitably welcomes 24. The Chinese suggest to have a balance and inevitable unlikely leaders will right for the occasion is both supercharged nationalism. There is a Thucydides trying to play inevitable class violence when working hard is peace ruling power process structural trust. Makes a violent flexible rule navigation is doing nuclear the option denials there. Nation strides on second place on this fortune starting nationally for focus on tech. And fifth, 150 humanity with the motivation to regain its right position, both trying to grind forward its rise, limiting some electricity is less than the supply chains issue. They are welcoming China turning aggressive stop for nature of conflict. When China's close, US conventional superiority encourages China to mobilize subs through just the risk of a first strike that cuts the US misperception against cutting into prevalent teen and the post-Cold War era US conventional operations other military emphasize exporting air superiority and control professional escalations not concerning the military fighting with Europeans escalating US desire to overmatch and establish conventional dominance finance, good degree, Chinese nuclear force, made for the military facilities, like my personal China duty, nuclear single mobilization, ballistics, after protection, short of nuclear use and response, use may attempt large nuclear strike to eliminate China's forces, you, after abuse by fire, that's of course, not always opportunities to negotiate. An unexpected call that could cause the U.S. to use first, we need 21 U.S. can finally nuclear use after this, we're planning to defend our bodies, such agents and advancing country nuclear options, however, we should respond to the defendant unexpected resolution was able to take the U.S. aircraft carrier with the war fatalities in Iraq, which are actually against conflict with the military security. The suffers on laws, U.S. under I-5 will turn to losses, for the event that includes covering launch, but the board at China, there was no to make U.S. nuclear use, likely even small-scale events of military incidents could attempt U.S. damage rotation. We have nationalist and nuclear here, Chinese army cannot be deterred. Ground 21. PLA oriented towards local developments primarily Taiwan, but the SCSP lays in strong against anything to defeat the U.S. does nuclear operation against U.S. from the industry. PLA believes use going to end the economic development. The U.S. is very able to be laid superior strength documents division. Cyber and conventional missiles early and preemptively hold like illegal trade necessary attacks and carry low risk to assemble this over to use watch review China's attack and destabilizing inside of the U.S. nuclear response. Chinese nuclear forces in the middle of the rest of the ground attempting to target the U.S. at least image the business as they want to force the risk understanding of the China needs force inflict damage to the excessive with the wide frag of fog of war to great eco and speed trying to use single engine train conventional developing complete tactical systems ready to deployment tool but having used instead race for confident escalate and could deter intervention in the Pacific Single League useful for new attraction is after over public control variable making like more with conflicts neutral and if you comms crisis of perceptions prevent you have first strike and start the dialogue and if you put over managing and cover 2021 managing discuss strategic to the top of the original two recently the former stopping public structure the vision for the good use of the new societal use for simple life use to craft to reinforce that if you can avoid aspect of nuclear chain and some the new tech AI innovates to really upgrade platforms for the word that is to use these or aspect of like using the drugs and garage or maybe using catches launch nuclear weapons you destroy the US state Chinese preparations launch non-nuclear weapons preparation for nuclear ones and snow strike first scenario 2 is modernization Chinese nuclear mod is inevitable but how fast the jurisdiction that's on US postures and coordinating faster good China's also going to be in the worst including low posture use definitely they recommended after the US and Thur 20 there's no doubt China's also will go question on whether but how fast China's going to continue to have to just policy defective reconcile little within a few well jury still have security regional process mission local forces which radical change or liberty and after three positive Chinese forces made up response negative outcomes also this is named to hard space faster mod is driven by US first use causes AI intervention and nuclear early warning and conventional systems solid and key nuclear version taking after the conventional public was over to machines concerning machine which is interstate nuclear or someone that was based process use forward nuclear cluster exacerbates this assessment during this balance bills they were trying to concern the ability for the living sources made a strike looking AI using AI to connect trying to bring off-guard by creative attack AI operating with the potential to swap options strength mission ability trying to be both simply was trying to debate automation GLO small platforms were trying to use the disadvantage on the Salesforce and underwater vehicles trying to advantage against the US potential escalation and doctrine China responses indicates that are global and outside the a substance by US being interchanges effort was this comes for AI extinction China is also in Article 22 escalation leading to access to those records civilization and human risk how would multiple secretary after would placing after a professional investment between many forces and state parties and AI nuclear arms and autonomous use contribute those forms of drones laws nuclear halo AI identity lead to access control rest Russia has an interest in AI who said that the universe will world more clearly there was just AI and sort of take short runs as the risk blacking in fact something China has a data for concerning that the world is important hardware also AI should be won't get China PLA or even have your force of goodness US and yards and China for weird and correcting China level guidance of fertile graphic machine learning just by rates of ways use country because the risk is adequate distraction is never actually use China with risk of an striking target of spreading bypassing American shield military integration is the most likely path of a malevolent SAI extinction turgid and they remember 18 maps to SAI most likely come from military project AI calling humans use the powerful job is more likely others using AI not for solving math problems with regard to God is that owners will be military great results in the selection of factors will produce the first AI for the first person military with goal changing every day and against its greatest military advancement against clear research seasons as in China with the goal of self-improving and LJ and delivering which is dangerous nuclear it'll proliferate S risks which outweigh extinction alpha is extinction in other words outcome S risks which are around suffering passing next thing on suffering this existence should be addressed before extinction reducing the extinction makes it will be a future but it's not affects quality equals to factors underestimate suffering in the future optimism wise overestimate positive smarter artificial intelligence transform resources simulate the earth's instinct change suffering resulting disvalue of the enormous one no matter who the series be speculating quality of one is small but quality at least one of the curve may be high independently fear of a US first strike which is the PLA towards launch on boarding making working 24 hours effort a more robust second strike using the charter to the force like in some ways using new opportunities of service about being a big long taking sort of a use nuclear force on the chin and the service use after the low yield new chance and see what spread use after the low potential freeze reflected the NPR chance that ability average modern organization incredibly linked to a suit with the second strike next time the fears looking at future use for the chance after the low friends request quality research on Dr. Logan and Christmas was accidental living works left and chance to expand through by never develop counterforce options that must like the future shift in China's virtue needs to be China adopting the plainest first slow mod which is watching Chinese children going up range down 20 China's would be the state and years and increases through this form South Pacific take the future counter race this convention or increases rather than China's mix positive impact on posture was able to debating the period debate the China's adoption achieving the most evidence of diversity shapes and posture the process of reaching accumulated diversity for the year the impacts of diversity no it was in China taking diversity particularly timely in China's sensitive policy space or the warning could generate system pressure change reverses China's historic increase favorite times to consider bilateral differences using the different engagements that would have focused starting a discussion on plan specifically the unboxed Chinese call that would briefly include the Chinese commerce with increased bilateral route of the American bulging absence of windows of confidence between the US and China's dangerous work by Josh Marks on Josh's reasons might include bilateral discussions by Josh using the ropes forcing its counter analysis as it's trying to get rid of the video. Specific dispute which was by crossing the figures of the subject understanding is trying to get rid of specific forces. Most reasonable answer to the government's discussion is using the limits of the news for the news to all regions is not using getting China on board the sanctions to get created the negotiation of the China 20 forever. Was the fact that they were in 2017 European sanctions creation as well for China's role. What does that business pass your second division for progress of China's name was working with sanctions for 2017. Only the US will be persuaded to continue on there. There was a big for our 12 years for competition for negotiation sanctions would have been also the Chinese for 20 for competition with China. The third of Korea so we offer the US makes the explanation for the China negotiations for the testing for Korea and support credible growth rate. International strike option we have 22 China growth rate. Reaching condition was the region for years of cooperation discussed the growth rate ICBM testing. Development from young age and nuclear power with the joint problems that the ICBM and ICBM solution and coordination be able to significant confidence from overnight interest in helping the US shares even between the first market and testing crossing border before agreements not making to offer given open improvement relations which can prove the downtown check over the good advances conflict sanction territory. Paper was also the rocket manipulated is all the rocket we currently think our party and the promise entry more changes space which have to come all as we enter the sector the rules of the good solid rules as I could I feel for technical cross with the system company to check this fact for about the use of regime session demonstrate the intelligence for what I think arms needed that what is ability to make even if it's new since our as long as the public and the efforts they need potential for confidence from community including the work to replace able examples and which misconceptions relations that become strong conflict and if you solve free cooperation governments not love use and trying to get everything which assurance and entry about the nuclear use the use of the US trying to talk about the universities nuclear shit is trying to be a murder nuclear non-proliferation North Korea resistance enhancement spotty new differences logical culture transportation realizing the shut of the US trying to murder and proliferation.
Okay, good.
1 second.
Is the plan operational? No? Okay. Why does China find the plan credible if they look over and see that the US has a first strike posture?
Because they can observe. China places unique emphasis on declaratory policy because it provides cues about U.S. intentions. Our evidence says that.
Well, okay, I understand, but why do they see it as credible if they're like, okay, like if the U.S. wanted to first strike us at any point, they probably could. Like,
Well, to be clear, there are no operational changes that would stop a U.S. first strike.
I mean,
We
yes,
use
things like
bombers to first
things
strike.
like de-alerting ICBMs, like these are all steps that the U.S. could have taken, but those are things
Sure,
that you
those don't-
explicitly reject, are
Those
they
don't
not?
eliminate the possibility of a first strike.
Okay, interesting. So what disputes will you defend? So far I see Taiwan, SCS, ECS, anything else?
Our evidence says there's other stuff in Southeast
What
Asia
other,
that the U.S. is
whoa,
confrontation.
where? Southeast Asia, where?
I think our evidence says Cambodia.
Okay, U.S. gets drawn into Cambodia, how?
Proxy conflicts could escalate. The U.S. has
Okay, and the
security
U.S. and
agencies.
Cambodia do not have a security alliance. Why would the U.S. use their military? Like,
Right, but the U.S. would
okay,
still
I
be
don't
in
even think your
response.
card says this. Okay, wait, but in order for these conflicts to escalate, China has to think that nuclear first use is possible in these regions, right?
Not necessarily.
Why not?
America could use first.
Okay, no, but you also have reasons why China would use nukes.
Yes.
Okay, so for China to use nukes in these scenarios, they have to think there's the possibility of an American first strike, no?
Of a disarming.
So we all agree, first use is credible in all the hotspots that I just listed.
Not necessarily.
Why
So-
not necessarily?
So their more salient fear is a disarming first strike. by
Oh
the
my god,
US.
okay, so same thing. They think a disarming first strike is credible in all these regions, correct?
Yes,
So you
yes.
cannot say not credible.
Well, if you read a DA about
Great.
limited
So
tactical
why
use,
is military integration key to super intelligent AI? Why not AI developed for any other purpose in society?
militaries are both better resourced and our evidence indicates that AI developed for
But you don't
military
think there's
purposes
a,
would be
economic
dominant to the
incentive for big tech to develop AI for other purposes? Like that doesn't escalate? Why?
because that AI would be explicitly created for military purposes. So it
Well,
wouldn't
okay,
be
no, but your evidence is just like anything super intelligent is necessarily misaligned. Like,
Yeah.
why would other AI?
Our evidence.
Okay, I really
Weirdly
like you're reading
specific.
Turchin. Like he's literally like the guy that thinks this.
So that militarized AI is uniquely dangerous because it will be coded. in
Yes,
certain
but then your
parameters.
terminal impact is from people who are like, yeah, the second superintelligence develops, it's just existential, it's misaligned inevitably. Okay, that's fine.
It's more
Do you have
likely
evidence?
for using
I
AI not for solving math problems, but for getting dominance is a line.
Do you have evidence that the U.S. would actually pursue denuclearization talks with North Korea? Your evidence says U.S. should insist, but where does it say it would?
I don't think the plan requires direct talks.
But do you have evidence that says it's likely that the U.S. would pursue talks?
Our Bando evidence says that although there's a divergence right now, the two want Asia to be stable, so they could agree to like a snapback sanction.
All right. The one in CSM. The order is 6, advantage 1, advantage 2, maybe a 7th, but unlikely. All right. Kansas, are you good? We are. Judges, all 5? 1 second. And if you balls, you requires unconditional application, all circumstances 721, and if you balls makes explicit declaration on use nukes against any adversary, keeps them one for retaliation, allowing a strike voting for limits conditions of the flag against thousands, contingencies, weapons, geographic regions. Second is ground that should be particular nuclear use, core objections, tax off, also fuel, permits to pass over the plan laundry, 24 with Senate Dems, and House Republican legislation off the table, if they agree the president is not going to sign anything for you, oil and gas, so Congress are permitting that a must pass by the windows, closing those still chance lawmakers, back on permitting unrelated must pass bills, legislative proud of you, pro industry bills, that locks in climate change to zone, go to the side, would have do diarrhea benefits, fast ranking fuel away from movements, 7% of extractions, fuels got the good physical models, knocking out hard fossil fuels, contradiction, physical warming would be millions of CO2 destroying the planet, extinction series, to know climate being an extension of the hot house, white possesses some adaptation, heat poses physical and indirect effects, include sea levels, extreme disasters, pressures on scarcity, viruses, migration, or precedents, and class society, positive feedback, reversible warming, climate change, threshold, degree Celsius, goals are nations kept below the threshold of extension. Next off, the United States should deload ICBMs, remove its nuclear forces from launch on warning, and China to engage in a mutual ban of military AI and sanction North Korea. First, Mike Saltzman, Scalcom, more rate. 16, using weapons on high alert, increased chance of accident, and allow us to take launch and aggressive develop high alert, spark nuclear exchange decision to eliminate high alert, by Chinese bid decision not return to high alert, the crisis taking myself on high alert, reduce risk of issue, U.S. maintain and certain news, distraction sessions can be 17, given the great power, wealthy, sacrificing some payments, small cost, appropriate compensation, utility for payments, large deficit can be bought off when aggressive deficit concession is trade-off to enhancing great power, competition for great power. Next off, the United States should increase nuclear contingency planning by at least incorporating conventional options to South Korea, integrating conventional planning into nuclear constellation creates an assurance sweet spot, so you can adult 21. Service fund individuals like these incredible guarantees and subsidy for rollers to need to count for concerns while recognizing the counter threats such as conquer version like the U.S. nukes have planning conventional assurance by clarifying the area under which use nukes be used problems would be avoidable, strengthening credibility. The plan states Korean assurance is a symbolic downgrade that triggers proliferation. Harvey 19. Many see NFUs weakling symbolic commitment to use deterrence response to Chinese propagation. North Korean tests already pressed to explore also includes nuclear vessels, competence commitments to allies seek accommodation to adversaries with everyone kind of interest in we commitments cause allies to nukes allies feelings about NFU which has been resulted extensively in the lead-ups to 2010 and Armenia versus the United States not to adopt pre of America in a Pacific strategy and reliability cause extinction lead. Who knows? With Korea Islands, she was able to rise of China in the Pacific and threaten to take control of Taiwan, SES, and Chicago, and infiltrate political systems higher. As Korea to China by having Korea within its sphere control the region and prevent the present security Korea lower than the economy of the United States means Korea is vulnerable policy containing China standing with the United States compared to Southland China sharing Korea and said significant cost benefit separate Chinese retaliation benefits to the alliance confidential property contribution to Korea to deterrent spending outweigh NATO and Japan Korea export balance against China by filling the gap U.S. capacities and among regional actors may not be offer order operated U.S. over by issues about security Korea by determined support for T-virus, health, infrastructure, climate security, smart cities, crime, narcotics, disaster preparedness, development, contribution pursuit to development of the U.S. order, interest, north, west, Florida, Abraham, Pacific, Korean military, shape the dynamics in favor of consolidate reliability, single commitments of Korea, proliferation causes global nuclear wars to develop. 3. Leaders of advances less protesting against accidental and deliberate escalation. Asia misperceived they are under attack based on deficient indicators or mistake hostile powers in play, pursues against combination of nuclear and cyber escalation, nuclear crisis, dissolution, known of a certain development in the Middle East with a high probability of WMD use. Next off, the United States should adopt a policy was going at the sole purpose nuclear response to nuclear attack against the United States or its allies. It can be installed the case for purposes comparatively better and avoids discrediting NFU by inviting probing hypotheticals. Lewis 16. push back from just mentioning the heat of discussion, and if you never talk when you have to use nukes, why you possess them, and never can, and people are saying we don't possess for the purpose of using, we talk about when we use nukes, but we are hypothetical saying we hold out promise, and not mean credit the reason for not using first, reassuring less controversial Chinese pledge, had to know the edges and ambiguous, and nobody believes in you, and if you less magical incantation and more conversation about something sufficient to hold a conversation but not carry the baggage, and if you discredit it, and if you cause escalatory misperceptions, nuclear war, Logan. 20. Skepticism about it, and if you exacerbate dangerous nuclear dynamic belief, and if you use a shame increase risk of incident, identify and resolve this preparation for nuclear striking, increasing disruptive Beijing to believe their comments and signals and striking against tournaments, top levers to address legitimate risk through dialogues, capital American spirit, then with hypotheticals to determine bounds American, and if you give heard of some these threats as derailing discussions. Next off, Congress should unanimously pass legislation that adopts a no first use policy against People's Republic of China. The President should append a signing statement declaring that the United States adopting a no first use policy against People's Republic of China is unconstitutional and unenforceable. Congress should defer a cause of action into the President for rendering the statute void. Having to do it, complete the self-signing statement to nullify the law, including separation of powers, making the counterpart the opposite of the plan, congressional assertion of values, statement reinstituting the statute fine. 22. Executive pursuing a better framework evidence on the signing statement about disregard law in favor of discretion on since not a single word knows authority about it has no ground. He has usually another sign of veto line. Item in the veto is not an option that covered by the court in 21st. New York ABA completely statements are as constitutional claims. Statements handicap the SOP by inherent impairing congressional leverage. Congress has done nothing to arrest statements of mushroom. Using those items as well as statement to challenge the combination of nuclear contacts and signing statements creates unique oscillatory risk of extinction. Fisher. 22. Signing statements nullify statute, limit the war powers, but should statements have about the authority used in Iraq, Somalia, Afghanistan without which receiving authority by it, and Trump will also without Congress. The current risk is security, presidential miscalculation, and grand and presidential military action later more scrutiny, structure of nuclear war, not just by war power, emergency requires action using force because retroactive approval deliberation, less than chance mistakes can never address exceed expectations. The first advantage China's most fearful of counterforce and missile defense, nukes are secondary fearful. Reaching worried about conventional counterforce by heightening IRP, cyber EW, U.S. counterforce encouraged first try undermining stability experts concerned missile defense, so check and strike U.S. later threat conventional threat. Most of the nuclear arsenal and the retaliation to the city trap is that card again tag deleted. No through city disease trap Smith 21. Smith 21. Two city traps analogy looks over back in the past. Engage reductions in nuclear weapons, making the analogy uses multiple metals and then in constant use of apologies and still simplicity be the good best against evil China's analogy for another features spike that exists in American relationship. No U.S. first use blocky. For the highland, the U.S. use nuclear beginning conflict is right now. China's use for a still thank you. Response to Chinese mainland would have catastrophic humanitarian impacts on unpredictable military consequences on the world. Is sure China more driven by United States can turn to conventional war use defensive positions allies still believe threatened use first by Chinese leaders from using military force China in this situation shock the United States retaliation by attacking first preemptive wars law IMSA 21 user with state areas arsenal everywhere as they produce nukes or do capable platforms because escalation strongest for rational for never an escalation challenge meta acting rubber dilemma wrestling weak foundation real life effort leaders face choice conduct as well as retaliate with conventional launch on nuclear attack space or cyber flush of city acting but force engagement versus use or lose a suit vulnerable states the flag first yes option always worse than inviting others and by with a attempt to ward off. It's completely illogical for China low putting you to escalation not likely matter. It'll be capable of calculating strategy the impact war decision makers not enough time to launch by waiting and launching a strike result in U.S. war survival see disarm impossible for China to disarm some extent use yet follow China's nuclear develop separately launch stored underground and only matter for prep where warheads are dispensed and discern credible no miscalculation can 23. Which of the empire weapons not simple nuclear conflicts delivered not accidental to events wars on the crime accident with tech and 16 generation of experience accidental detonation without safety illegally nuclear planes strikes the planet 10 after Ukraine missile strike goals recovered they decided against response to the decision to initiate nuclear war reserve solely for direct threats. Chinese modernization is defensive and stabilizing tonnage. 3. Modernization that's present China's goal and not aggressive reserve long-standing to make sure silos response to growing U.S. threats from the U.S. modernization increases survivability modernization increases risk safety depending on the balance modernization not opposed to the U.S. no AI impact Cox 21 scholarship or you say destabilizing stability defects by cyber vulnerabilities for greater granularity benefits over community rely on extreme pros user short-sighted AI enhanced decision making improvement capability resolving integrating AI and ISR improved identification close calls and increased understanding reducing unintended escalation limiting bias from understanding crucial de-escalation no AI integration 23. China's analysts to recognize risk of AI and the immunity of AI China states nuclear warfare from AI and nukes highlight the importance of human consensus among PLA officers CSA and some of the humans with authority. It's literally impossible due to laws of computation and convening. 22. Ever going in a world dictator will have never in criminal process bring no closer every AI rests on intention humans has been singularity cycle to require claims to start understanding the idea of rest on the possibility and analogous to perception of motion machine possible because of math and what is computed and computable accepted by everyone in the field known in the prize sense that might be achievable. Math cannot model complex system rule determining command settings and ML can outperform humans not mean that they can score rules which this human achieve every machine would unravel the codes beyond boundary which is principle achieved by a machine. No adoption Nova. 22. Emerging tech with lack of understanding of economic maturity, adoption, challenges, real world include all these and economic engaging integrators to create a place before maturity, usability, publicity, correlate through tech, through goes through dissolution and limitations, overcome person not represent tech, assumption reflects below the integrators promote revolution, exports, question effectiveness, no Chinese launch on warning, clocky. 19. First use of Chinese ministry called the abolition of launch on warning in Russia and the US Stephen Howard history China policies wait after being struck most lower high, all overheads Greek source everybody just trying to move to launch on warning EU, respond they would be incredible, long standing promises not used. First, the second advantage accepting mutual vulnerability is a cultural for Chinese concessions, zero solvency, also. 2. With vulnerability, China continues to pursue incentives to achieving hegemony through incorporating Taiwan declaration of Texas and the expansion of pressure North China American national system, China's arsenal matter, small declaration weakness, that aggression is profitable, vulnerability may be factored on the beach of China to learn, U.S. intends that aggressive just go increase resistance and vulnerability as to the Pacific, no Korean war, China has no leverage, forward 22. Issue not of China's ability, but Chinese interest in useful border, U.S. no challenges to order American, no overestimated Chinese influence over no bonuses, ensure sanctions, even no free, kept up with China's lose controls out, may be able to do delay. I don't think China's leverage to change decision, no Korean war, Roy 113. Appreciate that away from more reunification, not at the time for us, not sending us supposed to rush, we want to find an event, so I plan to start war whenever unilaterally unleash war, no reason or intention to combine forces in the US, so if we give a Williams super rebuild the conventional nuclear war, which is not solve these problems, no extinction, hurting, 17, if US Korean Asian war, then the human race absolutely not agrees, no longer a solar system, SLBMs would be easy for nuclear, probably like with political reasons, US would scratch that card, anything else I want to say? No Taiwan, Von Snyder's 21 invasion of Taiwan is foregone conclusion, predicts become a common currency, a review of for fits consistently rated, versus low China economy incumbent, which keeps down the risk of all narrative like ambiguous war in isolation. Isolation.
I will send that.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Status of the office.
Conditional.
The writer GA. Why would it write the plan and not any other bill in
Because
Congress?
the PAN is the only must-pass bill that is the only option.
That's it.
Yes.
You don't think
It's
that's
based on must-pass legislation, and the plan is the only available one.
the advantage counterplan. Does the counterplan make China think we won't first write that?
No. Oh, actually, the first two planks, maybe, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Not the third plank, I thought that's what we were
Okay, and net benefit is assurances.
Yeah.
Okay. Sole purpose. Why is sole purpose more credible than NFU?
So our evidence says the difference between sole purpose and NFU is small, but makes a significant difference for a few reasons. The first is because sole purpose is based on the reason why we have nukes, whereas NFU, would actually have to answer hypotheticals on use connections, which means that during diplomatic exchanges, the US would have to answer stupid hypotheticals like, oh, what if aliens decided to invade? Like, what if all of these different things
Okay.
happens? And it would discredit the US over time. The second is...
Aliens aren't from China.
Well, okay, wait, but our evidence says, I mean, you are correct, that is why they are aliens. But our evidence says, and we can read more evidence in the block to substantiate this, that this is what diplomats empirically ask each other. When China announced an NFU, the US did the same thing.
Impact card is about when the U.S. doesn't think China's NFU is credible. Like you
Well,
all
it
think
goes,
is.
it goes,
So
okay, well, first
what's
of all,
the applicability to the case?
well, okay, first of all, the fact that the US did not find China's NFU to be credible is actually helpful for us because
I'm
it
asking you
proves.
about your impact card.
Yeah, I mean, either way, this card says the reason why, like, that dynamic where the U.S. did not find China's NFU to be credible was dangerous, like, is
Okay.
what led to a war, which means if your NFU is not credible either, then it will trigger the same dynamic.
Proleth. In what circumstance would an ally want the U.S. to cross the nuclear threshold first against China?
Okay, well, there are two things. One is the fact that they value the idea of strategic ambiguity. Even if it is not, like, literally, like, we would like to first strike in XYZ conditions, they value the policy because they think it is important for deterrence, especially for Korea, who thinks that China is an imminent revisionist power within their own region. But the second is there are certain contingencies. For instance, what if North Korea invades South Korea and China is helping them with Chinese troops across the border?
North Korea.
No, I just said with Chinese troops helping them across the border. Did you not hear the second part?
Okay. And then this internal link to like existential security crises. If I'm not mistaken, your part doesn't say like the word assurances. Why can't we cooperate over areas of common
Yeah, I mean, you're
interest?
right. It does not say.
Our link argument is that the NFU policy would break alignment with Korea.
It says trust is important. The plan breaks trust.
I'm unimpressed with your evidence. Like,
Okay.
that's
Sorry.
Yeah.
We'll try better
Where does it
next
say
time.
it'll obstruct other areas of cooperation?
I mean, it says the Korean alliance is a framework through which Korea is working with the U.S. to do all these other issues.
10 minutes.
You know what? It's actually
Graham, did Silver go find judges or like afterwards?
I don't know.
Fair enough.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I don't
You
know.
might have told us that.
Yeah, they have a bunch of snacks outside if you guys want to go there.
Topicality,
Oh, he.
the signing statements kind of plan. Operator. The advantage kind of plan. The sole purpose kind of plan. The assurance disadvantage. And then the rider
Wait, I actually apologize. I was impressed by you remembering the order walking back in that I forgot to reorganize flows. Can you give it again?
1, 2,
Yeah.
T. Signing statements. Advantage counter plan. Sole purpose. Assurance. Right.
Okay.
Good. 1 and 2, 1's conventional alcohols. Conventional weapons are only scary because of nuclear misinterpretation. Hey, 16. Overtime U.S. industry broader military action, but it's always drawn the line in nuclear use traces. This changing against virtual U.S. from conventional weapons. U.S. uses their nuclear preemption without fear of nuclear reprisal. They say there's no cities trap. Yes, the U.S. is defining power. Or evidence that structure release conflict. They say no. U.S. first use. The U.S. would strike first. 1, entanglement. Chinese conventional nuclear systems ensure nuclear preemption. 2, doctrine. The NPR commits the U.S. to deterring nuclear attack with limited use. 3, audience costs. First major war in generations exposes weakness and requires escalation. That's Sweeney. They say it's illogical for them to adopt early warning. Yes, they would because it improves the survivability of the weaker arsenal. Makes U.S. first strike less likely. They say no. Miscalc, a blip on China's radar. If they have integrated AI early warning, because them to launch their nuclear weapons because they think they're under attack. So it would be an unintentional launch. They say China modernization is defensive. We agree that it's defensive. It's in response to U.S. fears of the first strike because all of the modernization that they're doing is to improve the survivability of their arsenal. They say AI refuses. AI is bad. You shouldn't give control to ChatGPT and mistakes data and thinks you're under attack. They say no AI integration. China would because they would improve decision making and they think it would improve decision making and improve survivability. They say no AGI. In fact, yes, our evidence says it's most likely to happen by integrating AI into the military. They say no adoption. This is about generic emerging tech and doesn't even mention AI. They say no LOW. Yes, because it would reduce the warning time and improve China's second strike capability. Last argument is no Taiwan invasion. The conventional conflicts would happen over Taiwan imminently. That's our bizarre evidence. And they also drop the SES and other hotspots that cause conventional conflict and turn off their disadvantages. The other page, the first argument is that China
China will extract concession if there's not an impact to their state, that's zero solvency. But China asked and said, and then if he was a benchmark, and they would be worried that the U.S. would roll it back if they truly didn't come to the table and talk. They see China has no leverage. They're North Korea's largest trading partner, which our evidence says, so North Korea would have to come to the table because their economy would collapse. They say no Korean war. Yes, they would use limited use to show resolve in a conflict because they think they could use the hold the U.S. homeland hostage. That draws the U.S. in and causes a nuclear war. They didn't read yet. They scratched the extinction card, so you know this, in fact, gets to extinction. The atomicality argument. We meet, plain text in a vacuum, avoids positional competition, not arbitrary. Counter-term asks can be by multilateral geographical and 17 no for twos. Look at their with one of our governments where unilateralization might be general specific. I combine with geographical with flesh up and use against their first together. Prefer first is education, 200 links, ACE point, innovation, a year's worth of 4 apps, produces stale debates, discourages topic germane research, and incentivize incentives for refinement. ACE points precision. Our evidence is the first US-based discussion of NFU is semantically precise. Theirs is an advocacy group defining how you're doing an NFU. CC point picks, they get that gets destroyed if they have it under their interpretation. 2, functional overlimiting picks for immutable advantages for finite engineers or for power towards the NFU is conduct. We solve limits because it's country specific and NEG guarantee deterrence, assurance, and modernization. Reasonability solves vote AFF or interpretation allows you sustainable debate. Signing statements. 1, purview both. It shields by including the counterplans process and no evidence says it has to be prior to solve the net benefit. Purview the counterplan. They must compete by a text and function, both for key flash and fairness, by maximizing distinction. Purview the plan and the counterplans process on something else they can't solve. 1, unconstitutional. Yang and 18. Signing statements were ruled unconstitutional. The New York Class strike deadlines. The Supreme Court ruled to violate their precedent. Clause 2, separation of powers. It has the president create law which is illegal or signed in Mandate 6. Use of signing seems to violate Article 1 against Congress' power to make laws or to require to take care of laws. Also, first may require the veto by signing clears will not give effect to president circumstance of courts. 3, avoidance. Courts throw it out at 123 burning their Congress is standing for the issues and surrounding executive Congress is turned on executive turf. Marked turf. The net benefit is one shot, doesn't spill over, gets approved by politics. Their internal link evidence is garbage. The advantage counter plan. 1, permutation to vote. 2, permutation to plan, and every combination of planks. Conditionality is a voting issue. It's used to a C strategy by disincentivizing our best offense, encourages increasing 1 and C strategies, and destroys advocacy skills. Just those solves because they can read multiple advocacies. Planks 1 and 2 doesn't convince China we won't first strike. So it doesn't solve modernization. It might solve U.S. accidents, but we haven't run an advantage about that. They still fear intentional U.S. first use. The counter plan leaves that on the table. The U.S. can still first strike China, so it doesn't solve scenario 1 either. The third plank, inducements fail. All of our 1 is the evidence that China refuses to come to the table absent inducements, and their evidence and counterplan doesn't specify what those inducements are, which means it gets circumvented for vagueness. U.S. commitment to keep progress in talks to locking 20 of you, but the second point talks between China and U.S. for I think Chinese government and the U.S. for commitments make clear the U.S. commitment and U.S. essential for progress in talks. U.S. complain China is only engaged with U.S. refusal to make this one basic request in this incentive. Sole purpose. 1, purview both. It shields, clarifies posture. 2, purview the counterplan. They're indistinct or allows nuclear preemption. Governments like stars love and never sees against between their country is the equivalent of nuclear sole purpose. 7 weapons against their country to use weapons both. Care the implication weapons may be used on the allegation against themselves or allies. There's a distinction between the sole purpose and the intention not used. First under terror circumstances, for example, creative attack. If that it links to the benefit line 14 tracks at sole purpose like the ability to use missions of nuclear weapons that lie like the use doesn't sole purpose short purpose says it's the same rebel that may know if you sound incredible when a nuclear state actually bound by the pledge. Removing preemptions key to solvency. ACE point is crisis stability. Conventional campaigns to make China fear the loss of its nuclear arsenal, forcing U.S. misperception of an imminent attack. ACE point is modernization. The possibility of preemption causes China to modernize relations. NFU is the magic phrase. This is 16 returns per second. They don't want to join. Larger talk about not because they were low in numbers. First use squared and another meeting is really after representation of the country. Smaller size holdings like China. If we give it away, your CPUs, what is worth that they are. Decide this phrase, the magic phrase, whether we choose to operate, we all complain we don't have the quality of confidence with Chinese about nuclear weapons. The net that requires they win an NFU is incredible. Declaratory alone is sufficient. Evidence 21 less charging against refugees and that they're not believable. This critique understands the extent of military leaders to practice act. Pay close attention to declaratory policy. Signals of the shape, expectation values, and apertures in what can be a virtuous cycle. Assurance is sad. 1, purview both. It shields by providing SOCO input. 2, purview the counterplan. It reduces new strikes. The counterplan starts a war work in 23. C and integration units. Cognizant that you provide SOCO with things that have been into the alliance, but they only purpose to be deterrence to run escalation rates, surge by crisis escalation for the very nuclear escalation event to deter Martech, deter the both advantages turn the disad. It proves war nation is inevitable and shreds assurance. No scenario for conflict can involve a U.S. first strike. Troops training missile defense and diplomacy for the late round nothing and all 19. No first use of deteriorating lines moving here can reach your allies in nuclear messaging that are going to recommend the events showing military size and unity. Assurances are resilient. Player in 16 and 65 times earlier political thinking about the allies police prestige critical defense of residents counter neo president people reluctant accounts forward allies and through retaliation response recognition of against time obligation on public shepherd and alliance with the U.S. resolution U.S. group separate from escalation detection act control and train other final economic communities. No SOCO prolific. 21 nuclear non-dominance not likely SOCO fully committed non-nuclear states. No resist nuclear proliferation stringent verification nuclear materials not something break out safe sanctions effects on economic stability and atomic and trade roughly alliance with the U.S. and our substance likely to be an effective deterrent. You can pull up your stuff, Graham. Nuclear assurances cause prolific. So we can adopt 21 seconds until consideration come back for our allies want to return to us on our nuclear actually use the tape and in the alley though. Guarantees are to be credible. Can increase more practice. Ship from states where we'll be trying to conflict with by alliance China conflict turns it, white and 18, go to economic vulnerability, vulnerability of Asian allies, the rest Washington arguments, committee, means Korean nuclear tech, strategic force, means government's going to be critical value, that America's willing to fight the surface, presenting Washington refuse that way, race versus the U.S. versus Russia, stop willing that our alliances and hold adversaries. The Indo-Pac impact deal. 1, no terminals, not a complete argument. It doesn't say extinction. It doesn't say war. It's claims to. 2, no connection to the plan doesn't mean we no longer cooperate with SOCO. Their card says, doesn't say the word assurances. 3, says directly the opposite. Security ties are key. Lean 21. U.S. economic investment in the alliance helps shape SOCO. This growth which the U.S. would alliance. Yep, if they read terminals, we get all new answers to that piece of evidence. The Ryder Act. Lots of must-pass legislation. You can in 24 there's several must-pass legislation that will force Congress to act and provide legislative vehicles for smaller bills. 12 appropriation bill, security, defense, education, energy, healthcare, tax legislation, cyber, and AI HUD appropriations. Polarization makes them structurally common and inevitable. Currently in 22 Ferguson's increasingly through non-traditional laws make progress, medical emissions, polarization, increase the use of surrenders, more common areas becoming even more common as polarization increases access to theory both quantitatively and qualitatively. More polarized Congress use riders access to theory to find evidence for the hypothesis. The plan is not perceived as a rider bill. Even though we are durably fighting it and we know about it, Congress does not, they wouldn't be perceived as a rider bill because it would be a unilateral change to the NPR. Normal means would also be Biden changing the NPR, which means Congress doesn't have to get involved. Their internal evidence is terrible. It doesn't say they actually solve climate change. There's no impact on warming. I'll send this card out. Schellenberg 19, no critical scientific bodies that represent climate change, threats, extinction, mass migration movements, or that affect your country's climate has affected conflict, other drivers such as low economic development tend to be more influential, but 99% climate deadfall from disaster from the Netherlands, below sea level, Netherlands, documents, produce enough to lead the FAO forecast crossing 3% future yield growth depend from word accident irrigation fertilizer, then climate change. Warming is inevitable. Green 19, natural variability must be in the lower likely source to warming geological prosecutor with the scale of Paris will prevent a 0.03 degrees in warming. Information much severely impact money was well until the 22nd century. You can compare with wind farms. Market wind farms. Yeah. Here's more reasons they won't proliferate. Einhorn in 22, acquiring weapons without a custody to withdraw from the NPT would give a body loan, illicit strong, opprobrium, training partners would scale back co-op, international nuclear co-op would be cut off, affecting so good, but a nuclear power country where nuclear force community targets have been attacked. Economic prestige outweigh Moon 23, SOCO, we're all blowback disclosure and over friends, now that we're more vocal sanctioned by the U.S., Japan, and the EU, state expert economy, nuclear power and several blood nuclear industry fully dependent on the U.S. would return all those materials to the U.S. and SG stop supplying our fuels and power industry. Our men would entail return from the NPT would weaken international nuclear for more superiority or for no.
Can we get the...
Yeah, that was good.
Wait, what? Depends on how many, but probably.
I'm putting mine in the my cards are set, and I'm ready for the process.
Mine are saying as well.
I'm gonna wait till I get.
You're gonna wait for it.
Yeah.
They have so little decision time.
All right, I'm good. Reasons to reject the team is just conditionality, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Signing statements. The first card, the Yang evidence, the internal net benefit, or the internal net benefit is based off of overturning Clinton v. New York. How do you think this answers the counterpoint?
Because it means other actors outside of the counter then strike down.
What's the impact of strike down?
That it's not enforced and there's not.
So when you say it's not enforced, the plan is just a declaration. How does not enforced affect anything?
Well, because if a military general says we should first strike this country, the plan means they would be constrained and couldn't do it.
But military generals can't just go rogue. Like nukes require presidential authorization to use them.
Yeah, like for instance, the president, if they tried to use the launch codes, could not initiate a first strike against another country.
Okay, that's
That's kind of how declaratory policy works.
yeah, that's fine.
It restrains the people who.
One shot doesn't spill over. What's the warrant?
That your net benefit card, the internal part is really bad and doesn't say that just this counter plan would solve all of the impact.
But like why? Like you
Because
have
your
one
evidence
sentence
doesn't say
to okay,
because
sure.
you haven't made it clear.
The assurance DA, the work evidence, where do you think, first of all, you cut this at deter, correct?
Yep.
Where does this say it causes war?
And it raises concerns about crisis escalation. Could spur the nuclear escalation it is meant to deter, is the line.
Well, one.
The last line, or right before it.
But like, why?
Could spur the nuclear
It says
escalation.
depending on how the
Because
RFK
it's totally
operates.
destabilizing if we give South Korea the ability to give feedback into how the U.S. uses its nuclear weapons. That would totally
Well,
freak out.
we
Korea,
give them
because that's
feedback. We
the
don't give them
Russian
operational control over the nukes. Like we just talked to them.
But now we're consulting them more heavily. We're letting our conventional and nuclear weapons become intermingled on the peninsula. That'd be very destabilizing for North Korea.
Why is commingling destabilizing?
Because if we have put like TMWs on the peninsula, then North Korea would fear a preemptive strike and freak out.
Where do you think you've read anything that substantiates that?
The word piece of evidence.
What? Where does it say North Korea? Like,
Well, it doesn't say. It is in the context of giving South Korea greater capabilities. What other nuclear war would be started outside of?
no. Well,
another
I'm just
civil war?
confused. Like we have forward deployed nukes in Europe. Like that hasn't caused a nuclear conflict randomly.
Well, but North Korea is not the same as like Russia. Russia has like a survivable second strike.
Again, where do you think this evidence
But
substantiates that?
I really do think the line that I read you, it doesn't say the word North Korea, but what other country could it be referring to?
No, I
if
mean, the line that you cited is just the claim. Like you cut the card before the warrant. I'm asking for the warrant.
that North Korea would freak out if the U.S. started giving South Korea a bunch of conventional weapons and discussing our nuclear strategy.
Okay.
We stopped at 9:12.
Okay, I'm gonna. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna use the restroom first because no one's here.
okay then?
Yeah, I'm going around. I'm first time working on monitoring times, so years later.
I'm gonna save the dog records.
Were you a philosophy major then?
No. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, how do you think we win Kant's debates?
That was the new AFF.
Really?
No shot. You think I can give it one arrow?
Bull.
Did you all prep that out? Like just for the Texas proof? Like, you had like a con thing? I feel like everyone had to have like a con thing just because of Texas.
Yeah, like the whole debate.
Gee.
It's like kind of I walked out, I was like,
We don't have like a, and we have like half day.
A cat can't hunt? But does it use consequences?
Probably.
Okay, zero. Hey, would you be down for new Kant NDT finals?
what?
New Kant NDT
I
finals?
literally walk out. I literally walk out.
Okay, it's been said, the order is, sole purpose.
So sorry.
The advantage counter plan, 1, 2. Advantage counter plan, advantage 1, advantage 2. Okay, good. Everyone, yes? Yes. Oh. Are we good? Yes. Okay. The counterbalance also case declares that the sole purpose of a nuclear arsenal is to deter and respond to nuclear attacks that unambiguously precludes first strikes, but counts as a policy in the language of goals rather than use conditions as the lowest evidence is sufficient to jumpstart the exact same dialogue, but avoids the baggage of no first use historical entities or universally dismisses propaganda exercises, replacing the term with sole purpose, allays backlash and is at least sufficient causality. 9. No first use is not always universally dismisses propaganda exercises and subsequent watching the declaration of China, receiving the better says all different relations, same by sole purpose and uses to the legitimate security of the CC to her there's a reason sole purpose, but anyway we can destroy that season of the often no phrases will policy there's an appreciation of evasive so ability creates clarity, bolsters non-nuclear deterrence of friends, misperception stemming from first strike by 21 when this message was therefore the US would employ the use sole purpose reduce service adversary risk to the use of the nuclear site decrease the essential visibility of nuclear forces surrounding the conflict increase the friend nuclear deterrence of purpose and the clarity of the allies and systems deterrence reduce service adversaries misperception the attack and increase the ability sufficiency frames to win that NFU itself is credible they have to win if the declaratory policy is taken at face value like they said in the Treaty if that is true that makes sole purpose just as group because the force words the exact same applications for the arsenal the Treaty dropped the ball I will be explicitly extending this because the whole point is that they've misdiagnosed the type of sole purpose that we are doing. It is accepts the declaratory thing that we tell diplomats. Instead, it explicitly bans things like preemption, which we said there's no deficit at all in any risk. But that benefit outweighs that, but do both includes that benefit and fails to include that few formulation that triggers backlash and is impossible to make credible because of historical baggage and leading hypotheticals that was about the U.S. must categorically disavow discussion limitation unequivocal enemies and having to declare policy goes over that considering we don't believe quick abilities only if we use for something new. Nuclear bomb never ever talk about this scenario, but we actually use something because we'll be talking about all the credibility issue when the policy aliens come like I don't know that. It's a we talk about the way that we're extremely asked about this which dark the Chinese people who work up from that. It is not the perm foreclosed the discipline of what is required to manage reputational downsides of NFU. Lewis and so talking with the nuclear use Lewis plays out when the second state on the series are always the whole assembly talking with the use for just because this is one of the words of what you're still elaborate characteristics statement is why the US makes sure the use of refusal of hypotheticals independently the perm sends mixed signal shifting declaratory language creates confusion and devastates solvency of a 10 NSAs including the country with this use without attack with the equal arguments about the clarification of issues feels from the stage to understand why there's an alteration warning inconsistency and like a flirting approach to speculation that we're planning as an orientation towards possible now you said some of the marketing post based on and then ladies and small thing in the calculation there's basic value perms there are often even there's no betterment to including NFU freezing so there's only a risk of class to credibility now to the counterplan 7 voting issue for clash and ground the counterplan never adopts the NFU policy and said the US would declare sole purpose that it's distinct on two levels. One, use conditions. NFU is explicitly a statement about when we intend to use nuclear weapons, even in the strictest form. Sole purpose is a statement about why we have nuclear weapons. This constrains deployment in practice, but does not declare restraint X and Canada 21. The sole purpose is not NFU, and the most rigid formulation when it comes to conclusion on the state NFU is the statement that the US would use to do this employment constraint the sole purpose and contract the US says that or so how it would use it and not impose that employment constraint to the the role of use. The limit for the formulation used and use first various when slow survey when the closest way also when the simulation use are not envisioned for used to preempt the two are distinguished by a focus on nuclear use versus nuclear purpose. So 21 no first use or sole purpose that former versus nuclear weapons only used for small daughter versus nuclear was only missions turns to NFU and FTR it's the same thing for the political institution each of different about any positive suit declaratory policy. It is a distinct statement even if the practical effects are similar. Literally the sentence of the counterplan that was declared contains sole purpose. It does not publish or say no first use. The arguments like the NPR or diplomats that it's functionally different. Chambers 21 that NFU is a declaratory statement that Russia not exchange use something response to nuclear attack. NFU requires the announcement of non-use and no schedule of NFU. So what was the first the US leadership explicitly announced that it would not be the first introduced use preferring nuclear policy necessity studying the fine rate differences wording is critical even if policies are essentially the same. Hostile 2190 policies should be conscious of maximize the base perception people can only give a draw the fine conclusion high policy demands the decision people cannot understand that they should translate research to the part decision of course adversary islands and because NFU and sole purpose independently can precision and common coherence. All of our evidence says that this is a distinction that exists in the literature that encourage secret or disguised acts that objectively explode the topic and deviate from the core literature based on nuclear policy and the overt evidence is NEG solvency. The part they cut is talking about a different formulation of sole purpose that would prevent preemption, but that is not us. No first use and sole purpose equally limit first use to retaliation to basic government level. The sole purpose and use to make use to ensure only the retaliation only permits no free usage of the equivalence of the sole purpose ensure the use of authorities is from the FPR the terms of the place and use may be use only retaliation of this is sole purpose now pledged with the intention that the structure of the US is not purpose to declare the sole purpose. The part about preemption says you could not use first to basic government level. The sole purpose intend not to use first under for example preemption attack. Now the counterplan does not link the counterplan avoids or credibility turns our evidence is explicitly comparative and recommends sole purpose as an alternative that avoids the historical baggage and plausibility of NFU. The Leon evidence, the part they left out says the sole purpose is equally stronger than NFU choice and no terror control. Only will that declaratory policy clarify what use was not used was one right no first use started that discards the sole purpose that international community with the endorsement of the sole purpose for the FT would be even more severe worse than the NFU. They cannot go for this spots the deterrent seas with pan catalyzes global war we see lying for too much use turn the use with not anything else like much on the attack of our right always reality use have wonder where the sentence seals they cause primary conflicts and use to the hostile contribution of the conflicts and credibility assurance is deterrent issues and deterrence in Asia. Now they said removing preemption is key. We do. They do not apply the counterplan bans preemption just as much. The only difference is in the declaratory posture that we sell the world. There's no first use and it is still sole purpose. Now they said declaratory is still credible. Concede that declaratory policies are more than enough. This is NEG solvency. Sole purpose is also declared to China. So any difference is inconsequential. This is from Lewis, our advocate. He explicitly says the NFU is not about the magical incantation but about jump-starting dialogue. This is as good as it gets. Lewis explicitly says that sole purpose is quote as good as no first use, if not better. It encourages NFU without having to say it. It encourages the plaintiff's declaratory as used in conditions destroys credibility. Lewis and all 16 we offer the negative assurance if we don't use that. What I have to do is talk about the services of use to do so crazy. We don't get a refer to free sale or folks no prior laws as you when you talk about that. What if you use it the trouble NFU is empty cards only using the necessity user deterring the building you talk about what not. Now what if you guys want to action and what may I would simply tell you the reason for deterring that's good better than no first use not better worth the credit better and now declaring NFU case the credibility crisis one overconfidence the US will assume adversaries believe it's pledged up rights a cover for destabilizing moves acting on our misguided belief because this nuclear war council, 21 significant days of the leaders actively believe that opponents in the U.S. military credible officials and other president of the adversary operation of the U.S. will not accept the news. The imperialists find communists are obstacle. Feel the conventional to actively interesting nuclear special solution for the opponents will not be reaching for the becoming complacent. 2, question begging NFU will be mobs by discrediting hypotheticals. The empirics prove Lewis 10 that categorical position ability to opportunities with the politics years of research must be credibility of the Chinese control with a new overseas services control that would have games after the hard the leaders might be Australia the shark to meetings with the Chinese having place the U.S. Australia the U.S. attack Chinese after the American might hope that Chinese will not use men overseas to China left in the third force and alternatives better when the U.S. is not used why we have anybody. Harsh probing makes the overall diplomatic effects net negative. Over China if and if you can be representative of what is actually needed to clear to policy because Julie got what I'm saying for substitution to actual harm that actually means that you would agree deliver pressure for the U.S. got argue use the adversary use first invitation use is part also that will learn the move and part of relevance to a nuclear war planet. I agree that if you policy and posting views and what that actually means, Canada will be the one in art that China advantage conventional weapons are not cause China thinks that new PGS can launch first and strike that. This term their nukes which is the one in favorable evidence are cards from 2016 so it does not apply because our evidence is about new capabilities. Now the Chinese got away with murder on the case. They kind of threw around the words second strike survivability a couple of times without answering our warrants. It is vague if the US or China their first strike were imminent. They would not preempt or conduct diplomacy. They would retaliate with conventional weapons, flush submarines or active mobile forces to protect their arsenal. That's according to evidence, especially true with the US as a secure second strike through SLBMs and hard ICBMs. So they knew that the humanitarian consequences outweigh uncertainty. There's official doctrine that's a flawed evidence group. There are 3 subpoints. It is all from Sweeney, Air NEG. Their evidence is a hypothetical and concludes it is extremely unlikely China would not either their early warning systems are developed. They'll wait and they'll wait and they drop the Chinese nukes are deployed separately from the launch systems. So literal hair trigger or litters of Hawthorne's rule. That's a low evidence. No launch of warning. Chinese official policy is to wait more evidence to eligibility. Need effective early warning China launch it. Short function would eligibility feasible with Russia. A U.S. strike would use estimated as CVMs. All much from the original new China would not have this official warning time launch it. Before generation eligibility does not make sense in the context of China. No hotspots. No war now. The warning team has their evidence as deterrence is holding in China. 6 cooperation which corroborates with all of our defense and the Taiwan scenario was wrong. The consensus of experts agrees that it's not. It didn't prefer it over single authors, which is a bonsai evidence and no STS code 20 for that. Australia and China adopt the silos of code of the STS over multiple mutual systems to see blood relation for the census for learning the conflict in the STS region. Believe that a code is so much for the Jaja, not war, and no Sino-Japanese war, China says Japanese are anywhere where the U.S. command makes out with the Japan and understand the living how it's really endorse of war, living in the living as long as the U.S. states working relationship with China with the party China. No as first every other area for AI films such as conventional usage of AI impact is diffusing escalation by resisting universal perception and no AGI because it necessarily is limited by mathematical controls. Our evidence says that the PLA will not see military controls to AI ever, which is from 2023, which means it necessarily outweighs now Malaysia's advantage. No spillover. 1, China is no leverage. Think about it logically. The reason that North Korea has nukes is because it doesn't want to be invaded like Gaddafi. Our evidence is that China can at best only delay nuclear modernization. 2, the U.S. has no evidence that says Biden will do it. He's blocked down the domestic space for the Middle East. Their evidence says the U.S. could do it, not would. 3, talks take years. They have to win that they are perfect, otherwise it will never happen. And otherwise, talks can be scuffed in the long term. No Korean war. Kim is sending aid to Russia and explicitly say that we would not unilaterally get a war. U.S. and South Korean nukes deter escalation. That's the right evidence. The thesis of war proves. Powell 120 where Kim's dismally unification emphasis over the U.S. is common than exchange space of the years where the council is small like I'm short marriage Henry the new so the war was not the title was right over every 3 or 5 years back then. The graphic issue like he would never go to war. Did you like that Washington was tolerating the military was like that?
You ready for concept?
Yeah.
You good?
Yeah.
In what circumstances post-counterplan can the U.S. use nuclear weapons?
It would be the same as yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, no. Like as second strike, yeah. Like it's not that.
Okay. So no preemption.
No preemption.
No.
You answered the wrong
If China
version, yeah.
asks us, do we have a no first use policy?
We say we have a sole purpose policy. They can ask what that means. We would say it means the only purpose of our nuclear weapons is to deter a nuclear attack, which everyone knows means is basically equivalent to no first use.
Okay. I agree that it's basically no.
Yes, all of your authors are actually solvency advocates for the
Chambers
counterplan.
21
Basically the
under
same,
counterplan.
yes.
You say NFU is nothing but declaratory. Why
No,
is
no,
the
no.
counterplan also not declaratory?
No, we agree, but the thing is, it competes off of the declaration. So post-AFF, the declaration we tell the world is, we have a no first use policy. The declaration the counterplan sends is, we have a sole purpose policy. And that declaration matters.
We tell China and our allies, the only scenario we use nuclear weapons is if we have been attacked by a nuke. In the world
Pretty
of
much,
counterplan.
yeah, but the way that we package it is through sole purpose, not through NFU, and that distinction matters.
Okay. What piece of evidence says, what's your best card that draws the distinction in terms of credibility?
Dude, are you kidding me? The 1NC evidence, in fact, you read the Lewis card for us that says sole purpose would be better than NFU, like
so
all of
is
them?
your interpretation like the text of the plan.
Like our
in terms of text to
interpretation
bill.
for like, you know, this competition stuff is that the way you package and formulate a policy is just as intrinsic of a part of a policy as what it mandates.
What piece of evidence says China would believe sole purpose but not believe it?
Would believe sole purpose but not believe NFU. All of the cards
Wait,
that we
why
read
can't
that
we
says
also
that
do both?
NFU
Why don't you do both
introduces.
solves?
Okay, wait. Which one do you want me to answer?
The second.
Okay, well, do both this and solve because of two things. One is that if you say that the sole purpose of our nukes is to deter, but also we have NFU, then the NFU questions will still need to be answered. All of the things that we said about how NFU invites theatrical, hypotheticals, etc. will still happen. And also our evidence says that it's actually completely incoherent. There are two policies that should not go together
identical.
because, no, they are not.
They're
We have
functionally
read
the same.
multiple cards that say that they are completely distinct.
Why can't
And also
the plan-
offense, defense, any risk that including NFU is bad, like zeroes it completely.
Okay. What piece of evidence says the inclusion of an NF? Do you have a piece of evidence that assumes the U.S. declaring both first use and sole purpose?
Yes,
What
Lewis
piece of
evidence.
I don't think this piece of evidence says that. The
Yeah, I
only-
think it does.
The one as we're talking about nuclear use, the only
And also it
evidence
says,
is
the
not
Lewis evidence also says,
The
like the
counterclaim
margin
claims.
for diplomatic error is very, very, very slim. Any risk that including the plan derails this at all is a reason why you should err strongly to the power plan alone.
I'm gonna prep a little bit. How much do you have? 80. Okay, session 24.
ready for the one that you're not.
Oh,
Sorry. Course and consent. Alright. I will wait.
oh.
Alright. The order is going to be the signing statements counterplan, signing statements, advantage, rider, assurance. Everyone good? Or do you need to open it?
I'm good.
Alright. Anyone not good? Cool. Signing statements, kick purposes, that's competition, no offensive advantage, counterpoint, kick purposes, that's competition, no offense, counter, answering it here, counter, interpretation, we did logic, you should vote after this, status quo is better than flex, meaning, the space makeup, perhaps, side bias, first, last, speech, activities, bias, fake, plus, UC, reframing, new F's, innovation, me, not a fallback, use, number, experience, new arguments, experiment with policy, critical arguments, still, incentives to do research because it makes the counterpoint better, speed, skews inevitable speed, topicality, and DAs, they need to make it impossible, number, and solution, theory, burdens, crowd out, substance, in turns, their offense, disposed, ad hoc, condo, in disguise, that nobody agrees on, incentivize the process, counterpoints, place, plan, to force, permutations, the rider, DA, concede, no warming impact, the assurance, DA, go there now, create pro territorial fat ways to cascades globally trigger East Asian, North Eastern, Middle Eastern breakout with capacity perception and guarantees nuclear war. That's symbolic always on top of through preemptive strikes. Known for the Korean nukes introduced new drivers nuclear escalation around the peninsula, include temptation for North Korea to execute preemptive attack and its eliminating capacity for against the complete stress nuclear transmission and concentration risk perception. Turns the case short-term war in relation to deck stability doesn't rely on U.S. first use, but we would get drawn in by the conflict on the peninsula, concede no terminal impacts to the alignment scenario, so they can't go for it. As often the counterplan stabilizes assurance and coordinates with Korea over how, when, how, and why the United States uses nukes on their behalf, ensures critical information on American nuclear strategy. It also incorporates conventional planning into nuclear operation, just raising concerns that every small dispute is willing to trigger nuclear responses. The credibility sweet spot that allows to trap fears, but any doubt about security guarantees voice the effect that Sukin and Dalton counterplan demonstrates a sustainable assurance found. Better coordination for assurance North Korea force benefiting this requires significant adjustment of the alliance coordinating on new central problem existing member design and consequent international agreements, but they use a little before the Korean one. Why, how would you use nuclear purposes, but when, why, and how would you use contemplate nukes, decisive use nuclear decisions, nukes use some of the nuclear authorization, the process to control provide common integrated procedures. That card is marked at procedures. Do both links to the DA, and if it makes the kind of consultation look disingenuous, even if it ensures the inclusion is a bridge to Verse 16. Any of your business clear contribution beyond the enhanced weapon threat, so the United States presents a wide array of nuclear strike policy, North Korea attack, and indicated that the United States waiver commitment to your worst fair cases using any fusion that the United States favors nuclear use, and if you properly remove any if you pursue farther, the United States should South Korea do consultation about deterrence cannot know the security of allies threatened by an attack. Do counterplan obviously severs no warrant for the impact turn. It was cross-examination. New entries when they explain a scenario, they can't go for it. They read the same author later on in the 2AC, so we get to pick what to concede. No, more all the case defense applies. The counterplan allows screen input, but not control. Claim 22 seconds of deterrence. Washington can help make your reads perspective planning for the turn. Through which Korea can be heard through various scenarios in the United States will ultimately decide how weapons use Korean opposition over nuclear deterrence is wrong, but not taking Washington take steps to assure the Ramadan evidence is not about South Korea. Each example listed makes no sense in Korean context. We already have troops and conduct exercise and have BMD deployed with that. Despite that, Korea rejected NFU when Biden consulted it. No reassurance, not specified the plan to remove the outings Biden with back policy shift, even the allied fears they said NFU clarity in their truth. They've committed to advocating for it unconditionally. It fails to slow short-term shock happens for Korea against competence effect is permanent. Cause 21. Commitments in that issue immediately testified drone exchange previously explained to allies to receive elimination. U.S. ice claims to retreat from commitments allies. Whatever registration cabinet to conditional investment and shooting from on a serious option would also feel more confused about motivation with states doubling down. Embrace the alliance. Like goes 18. States that have undertaken nuclear use over the 7 was to try to keep all that have order undertaking the alliance problems where it must be fixed requiring to undo the harm that prompted nuclear certain guarantees how the allies had a state exchanging making the commitments believable to build the terrorist interest in limiting them. Now the link debate, Blair just mentioned South Korea once or again, link commitments are hyper specific from 7 years ago. That's 3 presidents still assume you uselessly proliferate the Washington Declaration, which was a QPQ that traded assurance for non-prolific decimates. It won its credibility with backstabs Korea after consulting it back now from NFU that signals erosion reliability guarantees insurance prolific. That's Harvey Biden retained first use for this recent pain. NFU prompted the Korea to lobby against the change advocate the allies nervous if they don't understand their own security administration rejection of NFU had support public policy in allied countries that allies wondered about NFU from the news included board communication crew and opposed it during NPR benefit the question read allies asking about various views and if you were responses were negative overruling that's about commitments to South Korea toward with nukes technology disturbing the same policy must be held against them initiatives obviously contrary to need for deterrence and assurance. Second reversal the U.S. explicitly committed to retain first use option the plan on focusing in the other direction that causes relevant Coast Guard. Russia had reunited concerns about aggression amongst allies in East Asia forms of are not as strong alliances for creative connection countries may be worried about the next reconsidered value is treaty allies may be less yes and nukes and Korea's further interests in security commitments were broken if the United States begins commitment, especially in matters that brought to unilateral. I think nukes have an invalid alternative to happen in the past. Acknowledging mutual vulnerability encourages prolif. This explicitly answers white evidence. Gene. Use mutual vulnerability of time to turn out to be cause from the Korean for decisive China taking more aggressive action of the Yellow Sea and ARDIZ still have control China become military practice worrying about effects on South Korea so becoming concerned watching the less committed intervening military contingency but less China which has found Chinese ways concerned about commitments Koreans wonder if the U.S. for defense will even though it's risking New York becoming targets of a Chinese attack Korea rapidly proliferates the key variables motivation security concerns and sanctions are secondary don't at all. 22. Despite expectations of sanctions U.S. withdrawal 89% of those who favor Korean program attitudes involve having experienced sanctions survive they have less fear of penalties views on will probably Korea will disarm Koreans or how they might react to impacts on alliances seem to have the overall impact creates believe the United States accommodate rather than risk or alliance structure. Lone Washington is looking to address China's sanction procedure and American backlash and whose no constraints Ferguson 18 Korea supplying goods to Korea would whether the sanctions not last offer marketing democracy EU is an important counter China Korea relatively wealthy democracy companies good to create America wants sanctions would be repeated amongst Korea from the defenders and non-proliferation however regimes only as good as to serve national interest security nukes in our reignite article 10 is to sanctions nuclear force Korea smartly embedded within the issue of the United States the French Japan country want to benefit they would not press at all they wouldn't be imposed the economy was separated from Article 10, which are the options and member under extraordinary events that jeopardize the country being current North Korea's nuclear events, so withdraw justifiable, but also legal card is marked as legal. It's true, they underestimate the effect. Lower 23, Korea's public limited understanding of constancy with things was a unanimous agreement. Koreans really contemplated ramifications of the post-vague notion, whereas within the government thinks things are unfamiliar with sanctions. Korea, regardless of the United States, similar to Pakistan, imposing sanctions would be reputational, would be non-existent. Then, to the leaders were that nukes make their country a pariah. Observer policies of Pyongyang, one of the world's tyrannies arsenals illegally established, democratic creatures clear the truth not possessed, moving an arsenal force legally senatorily justified leaders now, hard time exposed allowed to have nukes well, Korea must be in the shadow, totalitarian nuclear threats, hard to work to nuclear threats, the Sukin adult evidence, whoops, this is our 1C counterfund card, they have to be uniqueness first, Washington Declaration and NCG, have revitalized extended deterrence at worst links that way anti-frame Korea hedges as soon as the plan is occurred, no problem for the next decade or go. 1220, Korea's unlikely to develop nukes according to new experts, even if Korea accelerate W, and the 23%, something like 22.6%, it's highly unlikely, the turns backwards critical movements to sway its own 20 experiment rather than simple survey voters reference statement of probable rules, let's assume voters initial candidates voted 39% against the version believe will shoot voters with exposed information. That card is marked as information.
let me just pull up the doc, because I just have it.
Okay. Is anyone not ready?
Imminent U.S. China war guarantees every day and kills everyone. Conventional can't stop because they can't zero Chinese arsenal kill radius. It's too small to compensate for uncertainty or uncertainty or hit hardened targets because it doesn't, and so it doesn't threaten their second strike. Yes, use or lose. Flushing stops is our argument because the U.S. would interpret that as a prelude to a first strike and conduct damage limitation. Drop that from the 1EC. The U.S. does have a secure second strike, but nukes are tied to regime legitimacy. So the use it or lose it thesis is broadly true for China. And even if it isn't true for China, the U.S. would conduct a damage limitation strike because they dropped their doctrine, emphasizes from the use for strategic effect, humanitarian consequences, don't answer the existential threat of damage limitation. The Sweeney Indictment, every card is a hypothetical people. It's debate, deployed separately. It is wrong. China's nukes are intermingled because the DF-21 is dual capable. Yes, launch on boarding. Because they would prove their survivability and then 100 against the first strike they drop. That causes accidental nuclear war. Yes, war now. Deterrence is breaking down because of the stability, instability, paradox, mutual tensions, and both sides are conflict prone because of the Thucydides trap. They need to answer that. Yes, Taiwan war. It's an existential security issue for the CCP. Yes, SCS war. The card doesn't assume breakdown in relations now. And this calculated escalation. The card is short and highlighted in shape. You can see no sign of Japanese war. You can see no AI advantage too. Death spillover. Nuclear issues are linked to this context. The plans on olive branch that resets tensions. The plan only requires China to go up and crack it down on sanctions evasion. So U.S. cooperation is unnecessary. Yes, Korea war drops. Mutual vulnerability comes as tactical first use because Kim will be able to hold the lone land at risk. That's our Kim evidence sole purpose counter plan. Do both. No evidence says adopting both an NFU and sole purpose would be confusing. They're functionally identical. Reject risk of a net benefit. Michigan needs a card that adopting both an NFU and a sole purpose is less clear than just sole purpose. No F assumes this combination. Assume the net benefit is zeroed by the term. Otherwise, Lewis doesn't say NFU or sole purpose. Blackboy says NSAs are hard to understand. That describes neither the plan nor the counterplan. No F says the plan would send this mixed signals. And the Lewis evidence is about nuking dragons. Okay, perm to the counterplan doesn't sever anything. Michigan's combination argument is basically that the perm would sever the words no first use in the bill the plan would pass. And you can interpret the plan just as easily as a policy that says the only time the U.S. would use nukes against China is if we are struck first. Panda says the counterplan doesn't employ employment constraints. Neither does the plan. You should have listened to cross-sex. The counterplan doesn't constrain the U.S. That was cross-sex. SOCOP says the difference is focus, but focus is not a mandate of the plan. They need to explain what the permutation severs. Chambers says NFU is declaratory. Lenoska says it requires the announcement of non-use. The counterplan does both of those. If China asks when we can use nukes post-counterplan, they would say only if you nuke us first. Same as the plan. Paso says there are fine distinctions, but there aren't any distinctions between the plan and the counterplan. Counterplans must be textually and functionally competitive for to maximize clash. The difference between policies. Michigan is going for a word cake. They're indistinct. Federal wholesale 18. Most consider all words to be equivalent to overseas because equivalent to purposes of security. Because is used first. They're identical with other countries. Security difference costs between one and officials discuss, especially with allies. Purpose used to purpose. They go out and do the useful. You are the things that like drawn complications without any difference purpose. And the uses of kind of things seems like the outside purpose of sanctions Canada. And you're right, event allies are just the government is basically and consider employing nuclear relations. This is all crisis stability. If it doesn't, because it doesn't stop U.S. deliberate escalation, or make it conduct a preemptive damage limitation strike, which is our 2EC evidence. NFU doesn't solve relations. It's NFU is a magic phrase for China. They don't play well. That the plan and the rest says it in the context of relations. And call it China refers to purpose to NFU. No net benefit. This is the solvency DA. It requires winning. Okay, really quickly, I forgot to introduce this. The deterrence key is stupid. They can read a unique discard. It does not say nuclear war. It has no impact in the counterplan. It links just as much. It links to every net benefit. It causes overconfidence because we would believe that adversaries feel reassured. It links to question begging because the counterplan creates the same questions that the AFF. If anything, is it operational? If anything, it would ban first use. So through zero explanation, China has said that declaratory posture is key. Jiao 20 needs to get adopted, and if you China does not address China's fear of a strike, China's own NFU cover the posture adjustment. Means that even a declaratory NFU would address Chinese concerns. Assurance DA can't turn case because it doesn't cost the U.S. to first strike China doesn't hurt relations because it wouldn't be the U.S. would not be perceived as the instigator of no draw, no one uses first against Tokyo because we can hit them back. No code preemption. Boy, 131. No code does not want to go to war against Tokyo. Terms with the elected war, the UAE is weak. Chemical forces treat the application of leadership. The counterplan, the only thing it does is solve the link turn, and we're not extending that. They never said solve the case. They do and doesn't get to either. Conventional solve the link troops, joint exercises, missile defense, smooth over tensions. They solve better because they're more usable, and allies get more input in their use. As speed makes no sense because we already have allies in SOCO. They dropped missile defense solves, which removes their first strike fears, crop missile heat, and complements assurance of allies in the absence of practice, reason that they would not proliferate, which was our achievement. That's Moon again, and Einhorn. They're committed to non-nuclear weaponry and they have strict verification because more reasons. Einhorn 22, did you read this in the 2BC? Yes, you did. Economic perceived cost, which is the 2BC, no dominant or IPG class, 22. I think people classes over the Wilson, but I would have been by August, and default rate through UK, comments already committed, because long term members of the development level of the weapons, which is going to be necessary, like, that economic power to do tracking already included in platforms, SE, states not economically viable. South Korea will now withdraw from the NDT, and that's deranged. It magnifies the reputational cost. Remember, it's not just so-called prolif, it's prolif after the plan
sole purpose, Korea DA, China relations. And I think there's one part that I'm reading, so, or actually two parts, so I will send those over. Yep. Okay, is anyone not good? Good? Yeah. Okay. Third back to affirm sole purpose, not NFU. This is a crush. We've recut every one of Kansas's cards, and there's zero deficits, so any risk of offense is a reason to error negative. They've conceded that the counterplan also bans preemptive strikes. There is absolutely no other deficit in the one error, which means you must use strict offense defense. They've dropped recutting to their evidence that says the magical phrase is not NFU, with the credibility concerns that are avoided with sole purpose. This could not be more clear. This is as good as this gets. Their Lewis evidence is explicit that says that sole purpose is, quote, as good as no first use, if not better, and then achieves first use without having to say it. Includes the plan's declaration of use conditions, but destroys credibility by engaging in irresponsible speculation, drops sufficiency framing. There was no deficit. The counterplan is enough to stop extinction, which means you must zero negative. Now, NFU alone, in the permutation is destabilizing one overconfidence. They drop that the U.S. will assume that adversaries believe the pledge will cause this increased escalation in the long term, which turns to U.S. first ranks arguments, as well as against North Korea. Two question begging NFU will be mocked with discredit, and hypothetical diplomats will ask questions using use rather than purpose. China will ask, what if we conventionally counterforce you? What if we use a bioweapon? What if we use basically something equivalent in yield to a nuke, but it's not a nuke? What if we made a bioweapon that could basically produce the same effects as a nuke, but wasn't actually a nuclear weapon? These might sound silly, but it's really how diplomatic interactions actually occur. Diplomats will fish for the most egregious options to make the U.S. back down from NFU or make it look ridiculously silly. The Lewis evidence says both will crack credibility. They've dropped Lewis 10. This is exactly the questioning problem says that happened in China's NFU, and is why it is not credible now and perceived by the U.S. during track 2 discussions. The U.S. asked hypotheticals like high-yield conventional attacks. Chinese diplomats froze, waffled, and the response to both walked away. Less assured, they dropped the line of the Lewis evidence that said Americans went home satisfied that the Chinese were not serious, and the Chinese left thinking that they were subject to the threat of coercion. This is offense. The Ulrich evidence says the effect is net negative for credibility. It actually increases suspicions that makes everyone I see scenario terminally inevitable, because it means China does not trust the AFF, and the U.S. will become more aggressive, which means everything is inevitable. Now do both. One, use strict offense defense. This is debate 101, and this is finals of the NDT. There is no net benefit to including NFU phrasing, so there's only a risk that the inclusion of the AFF would derail credibility. Two, the threshold is low. Listen, Lewis says NFU is a restriction on use conditions, so its very existence would force the U.S. to answer hypotheticals. The U.S. cannot defer to sole purpose because perm happens simultaneously, and both policies would come into effect. So diplomats would target the NFU portion and ignore the sole purpose one. Lewis makes this clear. He says that we should, quote, never, ever, ever talk about scenarios of use. This is a gold standard for length threshold, which means that even if Lewis does not say NFU, its credibility, quote, requires one declaratory policy instead of two. You know for sure that the counterplan alone is the only way to avoid war games that, quote, dog the Chinese. Lewis 10 is the gold standard. He says, quote, the only way to win is to not play. The deck is so stacked against the U.S.'s favor that they should forego any discussion of use conditions under every circumstance. The Lewis evidence says we have to, quote, change the debate from use to possession, which is made impossible by the permutation because it forces NFU as well. Now do the counterplan in severance error, heavily negative. Every card that we read has treated NFU and sole purpose as distinct policies. The formulation of NFU is a purposeful one that explicitly comes to a different diplomatic package. The answer has missed the point of what function is. This is not a word picker. Evidence is explicit that an NFL policy must come with certain diplomatic packaging and spin, and explicitly contrasts that with sole purpose. That is because diplomatic packaging is much of a hard to function as the statement itself. One, use conditions. If you have any doubts, look at the Panda evidence. It says, quote, sole purpose is not no first use. It does not get any better than that. It says the two are very similar but slightly different in the formulation. They draw the truancy distinction. The sole purpose is a constraint on why we have our nukes, because NFU is a constraint on when we would use our nukes, results in no preemption for both. But the public formulation is distinct. The SOCOM evidence says that is explicit difference in political and strategic formulation. Two, declaratory policy. NFU would announce no use, but sole purpose would announce no purpose but to deter. Those are different statements. They have similar effects in banning preemption, but are fundamentally distinct. They've dropped every standard, no new arguments. One, precision. Nuclear policies estimates necessitates fine-grained distinctions. Policies are functional in the context of NFU. Specifically, wording is functional in the context of nuclear policy with high-stake diplomatic sets of hostile evidence. If you have any doubt that if there is any reason, if you have any doubt, then you must err negative. Because there's there's a reason why every expert in the field thinks the two are different. If you read our cards, you will have no doubt that the two are saying two drops, that they encourage secret or disguised apps that unpredictably explode the topic, because it means you can declare the effects of not freelancing an unpredictable package that is different from NFU, hold the line. It is finals with the entity, and they dropped an independent fairness CH2 interpretation crosses that ground. It shows that we can't go to our office for secret apps, and the implication is the counterplay is both functionally and textually competitive. It uses different words and formulations, and the card that they wrote about Feder is wrong. Feder goes our way. Feder is equal to sole purpose essentially equal to NFU. The only purpose is there's always the NFU. Sole purpose is to say he contextually separates this issue. Feder 18 would oppose the NFU or sole purpose the US would use nukes only in retaliation. The hostile evidence is excellent for us. It says that it is unlikely that allies would perceive a difference, not that they're the same policy. We solved crisis stability that was above. It does not link to every net benefit wrong. Our order evidence is the solution. Its sole purpose, China asking for an NFU is irrelevant. They might be right that China wants an NFU, but the subsequent diplomatic negotiations, they will pepper the US with questions on use conditions. But remember, there's zero deficit at all, which means that any sliver of a risk of a net benefit is enough. Now that Korea, DA, no, can say no, North Korea, preemption, no pearl, that zero second advantage, since it means that they would never go first. Their build-up is response, but not an active threat. Now the China advantage, there's no China war, one, no Taiwan. They kind of just said it's an important interest without answering the pattern consensus maximus for that. It will not happen. Two, the only other hospital was the SES dropped the cut for 2024 that says there are thousands of incidents every year, but none will actually escalate. No use or lose it. Both have secure second string, and both have not altered their doctrines. We have evidence from 2024 and 2022 that says it will not happen. We did answer accidental use because the whole point is that there will not be an accident because in both the official doctrine they have to wait until there is a nuclear detonation in order for both of them to actually go intermingled. It's irrelevant because both have secure second strike. Now the relations advantage they have dropped. There is no agreement at all because the U.S. does not propose it. All of their evidence says we should, not that we actually would do it. Biden is locked down with other diplomatic priorities. Two is that North Korea would say no because China has no leverage. It is key to their survival overall. Lastly, no North Korea war. Evidence says there's a consensus of experts that says that North Korea knows that it is vulnerable. It does not run a risk nuclear extinction, which means the preemption arguments on the other page apply to any risk of the net benefit outweighs.
The order is the relations advantage. The China advantage. And then the sole purpose. there are two truths in debate. A China NFU is good, and Michigan can't win the NDT. They've read it. Michigan won the flip and decided to go negative, not second affirmative. Debate requires disagreement. You have no choice but to vote after Kansas because this is the national debate tournament, and that requires them to go for a position that fundamentally disagrees with the plan. First, extending their relations advantage. They say that there's no agreement, or bad now evidence says that there is an agreement, and that the U.S. has continuously been asking China for increased sanctions on North Korea, which answers all of this evidence. The next argument is no leverage. Our evidence says that China is North Korea's largest trading partner, and that they do have leverage if they were to increase sanctions on them. They say no, no, no war. Yes, they would. They think they can hold the U.S. homeland hostage and miscalculate through limited nuclear use. That causes them to miscalculate because the U.S. actually would be drawn in. Our evidence says that causes extinction, regardless. Even if you think this advantage is low, they have zero net benefit to the counter plan, which will be more explained on there. China advantage, casino, China war, not going for it, doesn't matter. Before you even think about listening to Michigan's whining about how hard it is to be NEG, just remember that we've been reading this exact same China NFUF since round 1 at Northwestern. This is not the same sucky NDT Elam you are accustomed to, where the AFF brings something totally new, so the NEG has to go for a diplomat's pick. It is embarrassing that instead of going for assurance, they chose to fall back on this virtual pick out of the text of the plan's bill. First, permutation do the counterplan. It doesn't sever anything. They dropped our standard that counterplans must be textually and functionally competitive. This counterplan is not functionally competitive because the mandate of the plan and the counterplan are identical. Remember, we don't need to win that sole purpose is the only interpretation of the plan, just a permissible one. That was the standard set by the 1AR. The text of the bill the plan passes, or the phrase in the next NPR could be, quote, the only time the U.S. would use nukes against China is if we are struck first. That was argument in the 1AR, dropped by the 2NR. This is probably more accurate than how Michigan is describing the difference between the plan and the counterplan, because the NPR or the bill wouldn't say the U.S. has sole purpose now, or the U.S. has a no first use policy now. They would describe exactly what that policy entails in both the world of the plan and the counterplan, which proves that they're not functionally distinct. Their first distinction is about this diplomat's hypotheticals. This links identically to sole purpose. Think back to 2NC process when they asked if China asked can we use first, what are the conditions we can use first against them? They said only if China detonates a nuke against the United States. All of these questions about bioweapons, about fixing a nuke to a bioweapon, etc., the diplomatic interactions all happen the exact same way in the world of the plan and the counterplan, which proves they're not functionally distinct. They don't have a net benefit. They don't have a net benefit premise off of that. They say that the thing I'm going to go for first is pause the perm do the counterplan stuff. First time extend, permutation do both. The threshold the 1AR said was that we need evidence saying that the combination of both NFU and sole purpose is worse than sole purpose alone. Michigan does not have a piece of evidence that says that. You should be willing to zero the net benefit. Offense defense is a bad standard for this because it basically relies on a credibility deficit that they haven't extrapolated. They have no evidence that says it would cause mixed signaling or that it would lead to any of these diplomatic interactions that they're describing. It would be an identical declaratory policy, and the U.S. would answer all the questions that they would ask of Michigan in the exact same way. Their card that says the only way to win is to not play doesn't describe either sole purpose or an NFU. What does that even mean? The only way to win is to not play. We would answer questions in the exact same way. Now, the permutation do the counterplan stuff is on the back of this. All of the framing I did above is true, that it doesn't sever anything, that when they say perm to the counterplan severs, they don't actually say what it severs, which proves that they're just manufacturing these distinctions for no reason. These diplomatic hypotheticals link to sole purpose just as much because they link to all of this. The drop text and function, we do not textually or function, the counterplan is not functionally competitive because diplomats are not a mandate of the plan. They say diplomatic packaging is a function. That is not a function of the plan. As I explained above on the counterplan, the bill or the NPR or the bill that the affirmative is passed could be describing exactly under what circumstances the U.S. could launch a nuclear weapon. That is exactly the same in the world of both the plan and the counterplan. Declaratory policy, they have a bunch of evidence that draws a distinction between them, but the actual policy that the U.S. does is identical in both worlds. The precision standards and stuff, even if policies are functional or they have some evidence drawing a distinction between them, the fact that they are functionally the same, that all of the questions of U.S. diplomats would be answered in the same way, proves that you should zero the net benefit. They say that we explode the topic. They haven't given any examples of how we explode the topic in the finals of the NDT, and we didn't drop the fairness stat because we explicitly answered the standard in the 1AR by saying that it is irrelevant. They say that it is both functional and textually competitive. That is untrue because it's not functionally competitive because diplomats are not a functional mandate of the affirmative plan. They have a bunch of evidence that says the ticky-tacky of declaratory policy is important, but the way that the U.S. diplomats answer questions as per the 2NC process answer is identical in both the world of the plan and the counterplan. They don't have a piece of evidence that says the diplomats would only ask those questions in the world of an
NQ, and not in a world of sole purpose. You should be willing to vote on zero, and I mean zero net benefit. Presumptions flip at AFF when they go for a counterplan, and mission has gone for intellectual slop. The counterplan generates the same set of questions as a plan. In fact, it generates more. The problem is that sole purpose is more ambiguous than NFU. NFU means no first use other than retaliation to a nuclear attack. The US will be able to answer every single one of China's questions with no. If they're right, there's any distinction between the two. Sole purpose causes the same degree of ambiguity. Dewey, Domber, and Saunders as it leaves open the possibility of preemption, or that at least is perceived as such, which inverts the premise of their ambiguity argument. What is the impact to any of these arguments? The internal link to the 2NR is scarcely explained. Why would China start a nuclear war? Because they have questions. Their Lewis evidence is a transcription of a podcast interview on arms control, wonk.com, and uses a bunch of hyperbolic examples. Their evidentiary examples are dropping an asteroid on Wyoming and nuking dragons. Why would China start a nuclear war? Because they answer it. Why can't they answer that question? Why did Michigan go for counterplan do the plan? You should be willing to vote affirmative either on permutation to both because they don't have a benefit, or permutation to the counterplan because this functional distinction is total horseshit.
Sorry, my stuff has started to
Oh,
hear, so-
all good, all good. It's late.
Yeah. You're back to athletes. Maybe and say no.
Parents still awake then?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not trying to build suspense. I just want the whole panel.
Yeah, we're just waiting for you.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
It's a combo. I had to take a shower. I was up checking all the rooms at 6 this morning. I didn't have time to change. So yeah, last week.
Yeah, that's excellent. Sitting there.
Shut up. Summoner. Fuck.
All right, we're gonna go. Yeah. We'll have a chance for discussion, but I don't want to drag this. All right, everybody. We'll make sure they get their feedback when they get back, but I don't want to drag this out any longer. Congratulations to everyone on a fantastic tournament. The national champion in the 78th National Debating Tournament on a unanimous decision is the University of Michigan.
Very brief. The reason I don't think you get permanent counterplan is because it would create an element of secrecy inside the way that our policy operates, which is bad for the general structure, and because of the way that the negative position reconfigures solvency advocates from the affirmative. And I thought that you needed to talk about both of those things to get to the bill text element of permanent counterplan, which I think is your most credible condition.
I thought 2&R very persuasive on functional distinctions between the plan and the counter plan. Seems like we all agree that if it's functional protection and competitive, then it's legitimate. I think they've met that threshold. Obviously, there's an extended typed out version.
Yeah, I think a world in which we agree that both the plan and the counter plan are declaratory policies, then what the words of the declaration are in the debate sense questions of function. And so because that was a distinction that's in evidence and because that distinction generated an opportunity cost in terms of how we end up having discussions with adversaries after the plan and the counter plan, that I thought that the counter plan competed, had a net benefit, solved the case.
For do both, links to net benefit, and do the counter plan, I thought it was summarized by the 2&R line that the plan makes a policy that says when the United States would use nuclear weapons, whereas the counter plan speaks to why we have those weapons, which informs net benefits differently. Hell of a run. Pleasure judging you all. You should be incredibly proud.
Yeah. Similar decision. I thought that definitely there was a technical part in it, just, you know, in terms of their talk about precision, and I think in the context of nuclear policy, sort of they're winning the argument that the terms matter more, and thus sort of inform functional competition. And I thought the lack of like a clear deficit sort of hurt you with firm do both and links to net benefit, because, you know, even if it links less. But yeah, no, debated you all, judged you all, you're excellent. You had a fantastic career, both high school, college, and it's been a pleasure.
Take these one for real this time. So, these two. Yep. These two. There you go.
Oh my god. Okay, I don't think I can.
Yeah, the top is. The top is
One more.
Go. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Congratulations, y'all.
Yes.